Well, hello, everybody. I hope you're enjoying your great contraction as it starts to wane out. And in its place, we're going to have a possible blissful experience this next week as long as you do things right, because we're going to have a mental minefield. It's already starting. I've started this recording several times and I've got mental confusion, mental fatigue going on. And it's only early in the Mercury Combust. This report is for the last day in August 2023 into the first week of September. And we got no full moon, no new moon. We just came off the full moon. That's actually hasn't even happened yet as of this recording. That's tonight. So I'm really looking forward to that. And this coming week, though, as we do our triangulation, we're looking at, again, quite a few things happening, but the centerpiece is this Mercury combust. Now we have that standard discussion every time this happens. Are we going to have a Mercury cazimi? Well, of course we are, according to everyone else, but we will answer that question because we also look at the inclination to determine how far away Mercury is as it makes its pass through the sun to determine if we're going to have a cazimi. And otherwise, every other aspect of that conjunction between Mercury and the sun in Virgo, we're going to have, as Mercury gets closer, a worsening effect of decision-making, clarity, memory recall. All those mental processes are going to be a little bit more difficult. Mercury is in home of Virgo, but weakened by the sun. And there's a lot of other aspects. That's why our circle of treading carefully, the blue circle, is indicative of where the I-Ching is in relation to the astrology. It's directly overlapped. In other words, there's a lot more going on than just the Mercury combust in Virgo. We have a really interesting volley here of alignments. And one of those is this really cool reversal of Venus and Jupiter. And they're going to be in synchrony. They're still in a square. So they've gone past the square, still technically within that alignment of a 90 degree. So energetically kind of challenged. And both of them are going to reverse course. So Venus going retrograde now is going to go direct. And Jupiter's going to go the opposite, go towards retrograde. So we're going to see that happening and virtually at the same time. And then all outer planets, in addition to Jupiter, all outer planets will be in retrograde. So a lot happening in retrograde. That includes Mercury. And there's a lot to talk about. So let's get started. And love this. We have John Doe with a shout out 2 weeks in a row. Congratulations, John. You have won the Best Comment Award 2 weeks in a row. And I think your assessment is spot on. You said, not sure if that makes any sense. I think it does. And please go back and read his comment on these reports in general. He says, as always, love, light, and reverence to you. You as well, John. Shout out. And let's go to the Dreambot. What happened here? I have to zoom in myself. I got to fix that later. Oh, just something else. In terms of the great contraction from last week, my contraction just happened to be time. There was so much happening and so many things to do already. Then the lightning strike came in. That was before the week started, obviously. But the after effects are unbelievable. Still not done. Got the dishwasher to put in later today. A lot going on. So my compression in Saturn and all that was a contraction in time. How did that manifest for you? What kind of resources were contracted for you. All right. Now we have the dream bot, and the top word is storms. I thought that's incredible. And I apologize for it's not a good quality picture here as I try to zoom in. I just realized I know that's awful. Sorry. But storms, number one, at the very top, 29.1 surge scale score. In terms of, is that a lot? Not really, but it's not small either. It's just, but it's at the top. Storms. That's interesting. All the red words are the storm. All the words have to do with an expansive, stormy, puzzly, confusing picture. And that could denote a lot of the Mercury cazimi or Mercury combust, actually. Then the yellow orangey arrows are relaxing and lounging. So the dream bot, at least, the collective unconscious, is showing our ability to perhaps be able to just lay low for a while and not do a whole lot, which matches Mars, and it matches a whole lot. It matches the tread carefully from the I-Ching. But let's take a step back first and see where we are in the big picture. The bigger cycle here is the eclipse cycle. Yes, that Aries new moon eclipse we had, back in April is still in effect. It's still the dominant force. We're serving the inner warrior. Inner warrior is coming out during these cycles of new moons and full moons. It's in service of your Aries inner warrior. But as you see, we're approaching a new day, a new cycle, a new 6-month cycle. That's going to be Libra. That's exciting because Libra brings justice. You also notice the time period here. The big, time that everyone is talking about now on social media happens to be the 4th of October. FEMA putting out a EBS, right? So that if that is 10 days after that FEMA thing, EBS, we're looking at the 14th of October, which happens to be the eclipse, bringing in a new cycle of Libra. I can't make all this up. Just can't. But right now where we are is right before another new moon. This one is going to be in Virgo on September 14th. So we're well before that, but just after the full moon, it hadn't even happened as of this report. As I'm doing this report, it's going to happen tonight. But we're in between full moon and that we're in the waning gibbous stage as we head towards a last quarter moon at the end of our CIRF week. All to serve bringing out your inner warrior. And this is going to be a very powerful solution. If it looks like it's going to be one of those, really rough weeks, it could be a really rough week, but it also could be an opportunity to relax and kick back, especially with the moon phase that we're talking about. All right, let's get into the big picture. There's not much to talk about here on the remaining piece to August. So let's go into September. And right off the bat, we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 planets in retrograde. Now, we're going to lose Venus to a direct this week, but then we're going to add Jupiter. So we're still at the same amount of retrograde planets before and after this week. Interesting, right? All of the outer planets, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, are all retrograde. So that does make a little bit more, mentally challenging, but also emotionally and behaviorally challenging. And these are the outer planets, meaning that it's more of the deeper aspects to our psyche. So you're not going to be directly conscious and aware of it unless you are mindfully advanced. And then you might, but there's no guarantee. So in this week, let me darken this so you can see it a little bit better. Got a whole lot of red lines, meaning they're retrograde. You have Jupiter here that's going to turn into a retrograde. You have Venus that's going to turn direct. And look, they're like on the same day. Crazy, eh? Then we have, because both of those, so Venus and Jupiter, are switching directions, now you can see this square that was aging out is now getting darker and will go exact. The exact square from between Venus and Jupiter will be the 17th. Okay, and that will be the perfected square. And I don't see that alignment as nearly as bad as when Venus was going retrograde. And this one might even add to the possible Bliss alignment. Now, there's a lot of pressure to do the Bliss, so we got that, but that might get you off the couch and doing something more blissful rather than just sitting around. Possibly. There's a lot of passion in that Venus in Leo going direct. Cheers. Needed a sip of tea. Delicious tea. With that, in September, the big news is the 14th on new moon in Virgo. That'll be our last in this cycle, because then we've got the full moon in Aries on, I guess that'd be the 29th. I think that's the 29th. I didn't put the date down. All right, day by day. Thursday, the 31st. Oh, look at all this. Look at all this. Mainly the oppositions, but they're aging out. So it's a weakened oppositions. The Mercury Combust has not technically started yet. Mercury in retrograde. We have the limitation is starting to age out. So this was the Sun opposed Saturn, and Moon has just finished its full moon, but still in Pisces. So things are a lot, very dreamy. Moon's going to go over Neptune, and this is in a waning gibbous stage, meaning that it's starting to take your foot off the accelerator, not necessarily braking at this point, but starting to slow down. We're slowing down, and that's a perfect match to Mars in Libra, as your ability to get things done starts to wane. Now, that doesn't stop the Virgo energy from making us feel obligated to get stuff done. So you still have that obligation, but a little bit more lazy feeling, if you will, or less able to get a bunch of big projects done. It's going to be more smaller knick-knack things, and that's a match for the waning gibbous. Now we've got transformation and change happening. This is just a little reminder, and this will be strengthening just slightly all week, because you got both of these slower planets, Pluto and Uranus, both in retrograde. So this trine, the easy energy between change, insight, rebelliousness, and control and power and transformation of Pluto, that makes for a lot of change. And it's going to be very subtle, but very powerful, that you can't ignore. There's you can't put your finger on it. What's changing? And it's not so obvious, but it's like an undertow, and it's huge. And you'll see the effects of it before you'll see what's really changing underneath. But this change is going to be a long alignment in the making. It's going to take a long time before it goes perfected. And it's going to be, you got to tread carefully, because you don't really know what's happening underneath the radar that's causing all this change, but you can feel it. It's powerful underneath, kind of like an undertow. You don't see it until it takes you under. You're like, oh crap, this is horrible. Not that these changes have to be horrible. I'm talking about being, if anybody has been caught in the undertow for the first time, particularly, that's rough, and that is scary. This could be the same way, but if you're experienced in big changes in your life, you might be able to see opportunities arise with this and not be living in fear mode. Now, here's the other underlying foundation to this landscape of energies is 5 earth signs, 5 mutable signs, and this is around the zodiac. And it just so happens that the mutable earth sign is Virgo. Well, that takes us back to here. So everything's pointing to the sun and Mercury. And here in a couple days, we're going to start to see some more confusion, more brain fog, lack of ability to really get stuff done, especially with Mars in Libra. All right, here's something interesting is Chiron over the North Node. Now we're on Friday the 1st. We're into September. We've got this big channel here that I haven't mentioned yet. You've got Sun and Mercury. They're almost in that Mercury Combust. That's 8 degrees. That happens when they are 8 degrees apart or less. And we got these big, easy, robust trine, very girthy, lots of energy going between Jupiter and Uranus and Mercury and Sun. So a lot of earthiness here. And that means that we are grounded in reality a lot more than we normally are. No matter which sign you are, you're not immune from this. You're going to be pulled into the physical reality a lot more. You're going to be living a little bit more through your senses. You're going to have to deal with material kind of things and task lists and whatnot. That's a normal part of this energy. But a lot of positive change here. With now Uranus in retrograde, it might be changing back to something in the past. We have Chiron over the North Node, so this is a very karmic healing kind of alignment, because North Node is very karmic into the future oriented, and it will become easier as long as Chiron retrograde is over that North Node and conjunct the North Node. Forgiveness, according to Law of One, being the premier way of healing, curing, or eliminating. They don't use any of those words, but I'm trying to get my arms around exactly what end goal you get. But forgiveness is the key for ending or finalizing, or I don't even like the word curing, karmic requirements. Forgiveness, that keeps you out of the loop, out of the patterned loop that you have in your life. Perfected in conjunct. So this is weakened Mars in conjunct over Saturn. This is really the main Saturnian influence. So that's why it gives Sun and Mercury the higher of the energies this week. Saturn ages out in terms of influence on all of us. But what is left is this in conjunct, meaning that they're adjusting to each other. A weak Mars, a weak ability to get stuff done and end and finish projects is having to adapt to limitations and challenges. Some of you are already feeling that, such as Ange and I. All right, Saturday the 2nd. This is more of a relaxing, slow day, and this is because Jupiter in an earth sign, particularly Taurus, really gets to sit back, and because it becomes predominant with Jupiter in station meaning it stops any apparent movement in relation to the earth. And what this does is those packets become more dominant. Jupiter's one of those bright shining stars in the sky. So as it stops, those energy packets have more of an opportunity to make more of an effect. So Jupiter becomes stronger in its energies, which is positive and optimistic. It hasn't gone retrograde yet, hasn't started moving backwards. It's still optimistic and wants, and maybe excess. Well, also wisdom is really important this week, as we get And well, now great segue into the Mercury combust, meaning your mind and its abilities are waning now, getting weaker, brain fog, hard to decide things, mental fatigue, easier to reach mental fatigue, easier to give up on anything that requires mental acuity. Earth still dominates with this big trine alignment, and Jupiter all that much stronger. So it has that easy synchronistic feel to it today on Saturday the 2nd. And because of Jupiter and Taurus, it's just very relaxed. This is where your bliss can begin. Now, when we get into Venus, that'll really add to the bliss potential. But this is relaxing, possibly kicking back. It's refreshing, pause. It's sort of a pause in the matrix here. And this is with a moon that is waning gibbous. So this will help you come off of the gas. Now, if you're not careful, your emotions will be kind of on fire with Aries. That can kind of be invigorating and motivating, but the moon cycle itself asks you to just stop doing so much in the physical sense. So then on Sunday the 3rd, now Venus is going to follow with a station, in other words, stop apparent movement backwards from retrograde into a pause. So now her energies and Jupiter's are both in station. So those packets are strong. They're in a square. So this really highlights the passion. And, for some people, you're going to be excessively into, sexual matters or dating or fun, entertainment, maybe excessive entertainment. That's where this bliss does have an opportunity. For some, it'll be a kind of a feeling of having to go do these things, having to think positively. But I think for most of us, it's going to be a very more pleasant. The squares sort of denote sort of some conflicted and some pressured alignments. But again, with station and where they're aligned, Jupiter in the planet of, the zodiac sign of worth and experience and, really feeling life out. That's a really nice alignment, especially for a station in Jupiter. And because they're squared together, it puts a lot of focus in on that. And it might come naturally. The passion, the excessiveness, the relaxation, the kind of let go of inhibited, that kind of thing. And that Venus station is at 8:20 p.m. Central Daylight Savings Time. Jupiter's already in station there. We have 6 Earth signs this day, so things get even more, grounded, practical. It is what it is, not making more of what it needs to be, other than, finding relationship and establishing relationship and having fun, and maybe art and creativity is something, and presenting your creativity is sort of a Venus and Leo thing. So all those are getting much stronger. Much stronger. So what's going to happen with Venus and Jupiter were sort of they were headed towards each other. This was Venus in retrograde. They went past the square, and now they're both going to reverse. Venus is going to go direct, Jupiter is going to go in retrograde, and the square is going to invigorate. And it's going to be a hair on fire sort of an alignment. We're at 3 degrees away from the orb, about 3 degrees away. So here in a few days, as it goes perfected, I think that's into the next CIRF week, but we'll see. Hair on fire and whoop whoop, lots of fun there. And this is the time, 5:18 p.m., where Venus goes direct. Look at the trines here on the Earth signs. That's even more, because the moon is sandwiched between Jupiter and Uranus. So now the edge is Jupiter is in a retrograde-ish, a slow retrograde, not full speed. And the moon is in, it's kind of like solidifying this last little bit of Jupiter and Uranus conjunct for a while as they start to separate out. They were on the edge anyway, but it's very positive, but emotionally positive change. Relationships are on fire and very lucky, synchronistic. That's the square alignment. So it has an opportunity of being very nice, very blissful for a lot of us. And it might be a matter of perception too. Be looking for those opportunities. Be looking for the risks of going too far in that alignment, especially with the square. There's a lot of problems that can arise if you don't take that energy correctly into and converting it into behaviors. We have a brief grand Earth trine here. That's because the moon is faster moving. We have, I haven't really spent a lot of time with the Mercury Combust. They're already 1.5 degrees away. And so that means even more so, like a lot more, exponentially more, Mercury is really having some problems computing, thinking, memory, deciding things, prioritizing, anything requiring mind, communicating. You can put even short-term travel in here is obscured. And Mercury is home, so there's no problem there. It's just solely with this sun, but also trying over to change ancient Uranus, an excessive but wise and positive Jupiter. All right, so this really feels like, and I got to sneeze, I hope I don't do. Trying to push that down. So you got the moon and Uranus together. That really highlights the change. So we got material change. Uranus is liberation and rebelliousness as well. So there's a heavy emotional influence on that. A lot of attention there. So weak mind, weak communication, strong change, strong emotional individuality is another one. And then Wednesday, we got a last quarter moon because that's moon square sun. This is this time, 6:09 a.m. is when Mercury and the sun go perfect, go exact. They are perfectly conjunct, but we look for cazimi and it's not there. We want to see the sun and Mercury on this chart, this little blue chart here, denoting that they are parallel, not contraparallel, but parallel, meaning they're the same inclination in the vertical, and they're not. So that means they're outside of 17 minutes, which means, in my opinion, you're not going to see this amazing mental acuity. And that would be, so if you want to try this, get up a little bit early on Wednesday, or for some of you that you're already up, 6:08 a.m., 6:09 a.m. is definitely within that 17 minutes of azimuth. And so they're within that. And what do you get? Do you get a super mind? Do you get super insightful mental decisions? Do you get all of a sudden really good at communicating? Because that's the cazimi. And my guess is you're not going to feel that. It's just going to be even worse of the mental fatigue, because even though Mercury and the sun are together at the same azimuth, they're not even anywhere close in inclination. So unfortunately, the mental fatigue reaches its climax right here at 6:09 a.m. on Wednesday, September 6th, as we head into a new CIRF week. All right, so let's go into the I-Ching Yeah, as we saw hexagram 10, which is treading carefully. It's kind of easy to picture, isn't it? When treading among sleeping tigers or slippery stones, step gingerly and don't stumble. It asks you to slow down, and we're going to get that into the solution here. But energetically wise, at this time, a relatively humble force or person is having an influence over a stronger one, and for this reason must be particularly careful. In the company of brash people, rushing wildly ahead will only bring misfortune. And that's a match for our moon cycle, lunar cycle. It's not about getting a bunch of big things done. You can still get stuff done. Just take it small, take it slow. Line 1 says inner strength in the form of modesty, it's a very Virgo word, is a key to advancement. Conscientious work is rewarded when one's motives are simple and intentions genuine. Those are things that you can keep in mind in the mental minefield. You can be genuine. You can have clean intentions, and you can think more before you act. You can be a little bit more modest in your action. Here's our energy graph. We have the current limitation of Saturn, which is a strong influence currently as I do this report. So we head into the full moon. That's going to age out, as we saw. And then what's going to grow in its place is this mental minefield. And that perfected conjunction between Mercury and Sun go exact on Wednesday, the 6th of September, and then it'll start to wane off there. All right, let's go to the solution slide and give you the summary of the influence. And I've got to change this. There we go. There it is. Mental fatigue, mental confusion. The I-Ching hexagram 10, tread carefully, really encapsulates the essence of this week's astrological layout. With all outer planets in retrograde, Mercury, Combust in Virgo, and the reinvigoration of the Venus square Jupiter, it's no wonder that the main urges will be to slow down and really think about the next moves. But it's not a lazy, rejuvenating slowdown. The collective is still feeling overtasks and looking for what else needs to be done, scampering to make sense of things and trying to prioritize. So there's a lot going on in terms of mental processes, as you would expect with an influence like Virgo. The Earth mutable signs point to Virgo. Virgo is very methodical, and so that just makes everything a little harder because you're trying to get those things done, and it doesn't work so well, does it? So we'll get into the solution now, but we'll start with the background, and here we go, transitioning. All right, when you put the change line in, you get hexagram 6, which is conflict. Looking for behavioral stuff here. Here's the solution in time, according to the I-Ching. In times of conflict and turmoil, new ventures, new initiatives should be avoided. Well, that's a perfect match to our lunar cycle, a waning gibbous down to the last quarter moon. It's kind of last call, but so no new ventures for sure. Instead, examine the sincerity of your current beliefs and beliefs of those around you. Seek advice or arbitration from an impartial or mature person. If you need to make negotiations according to this, then you want to get an outside party that is not impartial. Consider everything carefully before making any major decisions. I will show you another option, which is to lead with your heart and don't make decisions with your mind, particularly towards the end of this CIRF week. Consider the option of compromise. Clarify the roles and responsibilities of those with whom you live and work to reduce conflict. Here's our conversion chart. On Wednesday at 6 a.m., when Mercury and the Sun go exact, we are in Rave hexagram 64, and we get the Leo sidereal solution. And I love this triangulation. It's very powerful. When I said it's powerful, it's powerful. Before completion, transition, like birth, requires a determined strength for the passage through. The word strength is the overlap, by the way, because we got Leo. Leo is strong. And we got line 3, overextension. This is a perfect line for what I'm already feeling in this full moon day with Saturn, a time overextension. The wisdom to accept confusion as a temporary state. Well, isn't that perfect? Because the confusion and indecision, brain fog will be increasing throughout this week. And so more and more you need to rely on this rave line, hexagram 64, line 3, and realize that whatever confusion you're starting to feel, it is a temporary thing and it will resolve through time. All right, let's get back to the solution slide and let's read it. That's about as good as I'm going to do here. I-Ching 6 says conflict, be strong, use strength, protect your integrity, avoid new ventures, consider everything carefully. The rave says overextension is the wisdom to accept that confusion is a temporary state. So it basically agrees, hey, you're going to have some confusion. Just realize that it's going to happen and it's going to be temporary, and this too shall pass. And then you have Sidereal Leo, friendly, charismatic, kind, strong, creative. The solution triangulation validates the main influence, but gives a very strong suggestion about how to tackle these challenges. Basically, don't be weak. Do not fold under the pressure. Do not fold under the pressure, mainly mental. So we need to rise up and be very strong. Be very strong. Be Leo strong. More specifically, the I-Ching solution says to be prepared to defend your space, your boundaries, and all your highest values. It's conflict. The rave reminds us that this too shall pass, but it asks you to tap into the higher level wisdom and rely on your higher power. Okay? There's another way, another technique of getting out of your limited head and rationality and getting out of the confusion is to use the Jupiter station at that time to gather wisdom, but also connect with your higher power. And that could be a myriad of ways depending on your belief system, but use it this week. The absolute best part of this triangulation is the Sidereal Leo powerhouse. Be creative and charismatic. And it's time for you to lead. It's okay to come off to others as a little arrogant and even domineering. Do not fear conflict. Do not fear being judged. Throw your shoulders back and have fun holding the line. Be strong, but slow down. There's two separate things. It doesn't mean that you got to be impulsive. Avoid impulsiveness. Think through things before you do things, but be strong. Be slow, be strong. Okay? The quote that I'm going to use is, I am strong and bold. I defend my values with honor and pride, and I am here to play my role at this time on Earth. And I do have some runes to go along with this. Excited about. Let's go there now. I'm selecting, and it was very obvious to me that Uruz is going to be front and center. The rune Uruz is about strength, and it is correlated with Leo, that Leo energy. It's about health, power, energy, endurance, the creative force, the yang. This is yang in runes. So we use this for strengthen personal will, and that's our direct overlap over to TWAS. And TWAS is mainly for the Aries inner warrior coming out. I've been using TWAS pretty much all of this eclipse cycle. And so it also strengthens willpower. It is used to conjure up success and victory in competition. Because after all, we have the I-Ching of conflict as a solution. So it's not like you're supposed to be starting conflicts. It means that don't be afraid of conflict and stand your ground. Okay. Don't start fights, but fight. Be ready to fight. You're using your inner warrior and strengthen willpower and your courage. All right. So these two, I think, are very powerful together and serve both this week's end, that'd be the Urus, and also the longer 6-month cycle, eclipse cycle. All right. How'd we do today? Is this helpful? It's going to be a tricky week, but I think it has some real opportunities for some refreshing, rejuvenating time. And hopefully we captured the essence of all this and gave you the risks and the rewards, both of those. All right. Hope all of you are in good health and fighting the good fight. We'll see some more of this week and probably make a lot of progress on that. Holding the line, right? Everybody ready? Let's do this. And we'll see you next week for another surf report. Thanks, everybody. Love and light.